Hey, everybody. Tom Cody from Top 20 Training with my good friend Kevin Brennan. Today, we're bringing you live from the hills of Colorado, my good friend Darrin Peppard. I ran into Darrin, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago through Jostens Renaissance. Immediately, when I heard him speak, I knew that it was kids first. It was all about social emotional. And I think we're going to hear today about his journey from teacher and coach and principal and superintendent. And now he's on this new road. We'll hear more about the road later. But thanks for joining us, Pep.
Good morning, Darrin.
Yeah. Good morning, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm honored to have an opportunity to visit with you guys this morning. And yeah, definitely here in the hills of Colorado, if you will, at nearly 8,000 feet. But it's a beautiful sunny morning. It's not frosty. It's not snowing. So, hey, it's a win.
There you go.
Darrin, where are you? You're in Sulphur. What do you call it?
Hot Sulphur Springs.
Hot Sulphur Springs,
yeah,
Colorado.
Hot Sulphur Springs.
People, get out your Google Maps.
Yeah, and last time you were here, it was snowing.
Yeah.
Tom here, about a month and a half ago, you were here. And we were still getting snow. But Hot Sulphur Springs, Colorado is just a really tiny little town, about 700 people, nestled right in the heart of Grand County, which has to be one of the most beautiful places on the planet. We're kind of equidistant between Winter Park, about 30 miles to the east of us, Breckenridge, 40 minutes to the south of us. And to the west of us, of course, you have Steamboat Springs, and to the north of us, Rocky Mountain National Park. So it is a pretty breathtaking place to live. It really is.
That's got to do great for the head. Jeez Louise. When I was a freshman in college, we loaded up the snowboards and headed out to Breck for 3-4 days, and we left our mark on Breck. Breck left its mark on us. We'll put it to you that way.
So Darrin, tell us your history. You're in education right away. You grew up where? Wyoming?
Yeah, I did. I grew up in central Wyoming in Casper. That's went all the way through school there, and then off to the University of Wyoming for my undergraduate degree. And interestingly, I was not that kid that grew up playing school at home. I mean, being an educator is probably the last thing I would have ever thought I would do. And like a lot of young kids, growing up, it was, depending on what season it was, I wanted to be a professional football player or baseball player or basketball player. And the reality is, I am not anywhere close to good enough at any of those things to do that. So I actually wanted to be an athletic trainer. The person that I connected with most in my high school, you mentioned some things about kids first, and I think this is just a part of what's kind of led me on my journey. I didn't really have that teacher that I connected with all the way through school. I just didn't, for whatever reason. And part of it was I probably I followed an extremely high flying, high IQ, high achieving older sister, and I think everybody expected me to be like her, and I wasn't. But I was an athlete. I wasn't a good athlete, but I was an athlete, which meant I played enough to get hurt, and I spent a lot of time in the training. And I really connected with my high school trainer, and that's what that was actually my first pursuit when I got into college was physical therapy, and got asked to coach a 5th grade girls basketball team by a buddy in college. He asked me to help him out. He told me, he's like, I just really don't know anything about basketball, and would you come and help me? And two things were apparent at that first practice. One, he was right. He didn't know anything about basketball. And two, I was hooked, man. It was, I wanted to work with kids and be around kids and help kids, just continue to grow and get better. And so, that led me off to college, and I can tell you the whole journey if you want.
Well, real quick, I mean, one of the first things we say at our trainings, whether we're on site or working with kids, is that everyone that has made a decision to do anything near a school or in a school is an educator, just because of the potential they have to make an impact. And if we're more aware of that, we have more of a likelihood to make a positive impact, like this trainer. That trainer is into muscles and reps and caring for the body. Sure, in a school setting, but I'm sure the mindset of that trainer is different than an educator going in, but there's something special about that human that said, I'm also administering to this something inside this athlete. So that's really cool. Awesome.
So you started teaching in
Yeah.
Wyoming, and then what led you to principal? No, you taught right away.
Yeah. In Arizona. Yeah.
Oh, that's
So
right.
when I graduated from University of Wyoming, Wyoming was in a pretty heavy economic downturn. And so there just weren't a lot of teaching jobs. And, I had this crazy thought in my head that I was going to teach at the high school where I graduated from. I was going to be the head boys basketball coach at the high school where I had graduated from. And I actually did student teach there. But then there just weren't any jobs. And I had been in Arizona actually for my grandfather's funeral during my student teaching experience. And that last year that I was in Laramie, if you've ever been in Laramie, Wyoming, and I will tell you, just to preface this, I love Laramie, Wyoming with all my heart, but January in Laramie, Wyoming is brutal. I know you guys are in Minnesota, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any sympathy from you, but
None. Zero.
yeah, but there was this stretch of like 2 weeks where it didn't even break zero. And I had the only car in the apartment complex that would start, but I was boxed in by like 5 cars. So it was like, okay, I got to go someplace warm. So ended up in Kingman, Arizona, which is kind of the northwest part of the state. If you've ever driven between Las Vegas and Phoenix, you would know Kingman. It's the only reason you would know Kingman. And spent 11 years there, taught junior high at first, and then taught at the high school level, was the head basketball coach, ended up being the head girls basketball coach, and was the boys tennis coach. And had a great experience. Absolutely loved Arizona. I mean, still to this day, I have very, very good friends in Kingman. And I really learned a lot, including my principal, Betsy Parker, was probably the first person to ever use my name and leadership in the same sentence. I mean, like seriously, like I don't even think I was allowed to be the line leader in elementary school. And, she asked me after my first year, she's like, you really ought to think about going into leadership. And, that kind of started that path. Because I'd never thought about that. I never thought, well, I'm a leader. No, I'm really not. And she really kind of helped spark that in me.
What was the thought? So someone says that to you and it's never really been on your radar. I mean, because that's a shift, what
it is.
What let you keep going with it? What went through your head?
It's interesting. I look back on on that time and even just as we went into that, what would have been my second year of teaching. And, every now and again, that thought would just kind of resurface. And I found myself just watching our school leaders a little differently. And at the end of that year, she asked me if I would be interested in becoming the department head. And this is an opportunity to kind of test it out. Let's see what being a leader might be like. But I definitely found myself watching her and the other, I think she had 3 assistant principals or 2 assistants and a dean or whatever, watching them a little differently than I did as a rookie teacher. Kind of the way they conducted themselves with other staff members, how they conducted themselves around the kids. And, looking back, they were very young in their career, except, actually even Betsy was pretty early in her career. But it was a great opportunity to just kind of look at that and, maybe just shift my lens just a couple of degrees, at that point in time. And the next year she asked me if I would take on a student teacher. And I had 2 student teachers, one in the fall, one in the spring. And Northern Arizona University offered a deal where if you had a student teacher, you could take classes for free at the graduate level. So gave me a great head start on my master's degree.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have done it without that. I really
That's
probably
great.
wouldn't have.
So Darrin, notice, Kevin, we haven't even asked Darrin, what did you teach? Were you social?
I know the answer. Kids.
Science.
Oh, but
Yeah, I taught
it's
kids.
interesting.
That's absolutely correct. I taught kids.
Right.
Yeah.
But you notice
but
we
I
never
did.
even
I was
brought
a
that
science
up.
teacher.
Yeah, but it never even came up
Right.
in our first 10 minutes here, which is why I'm attracted to guys like Darrin. There's a magnetic deal when you don't even know what they're teaching and it doesn't matter. It's about making human development happen. It's about all the stuff we stand for at Top 20. It's about this in here. And if we learn photons, great, that's wonderful.
Right.
But that's what was, it's interesting in this whole kind of tribe now that we have of believers around the country. and Renaissance, Justin's Renaissance is certainly one of the connectors to all that. But there's a
Mhm.
bunch of people around that feel the same way. And I think the movement is really starting. So, Darrin, what happened in you those first few years? Forget your role, teacher, coach, principal, eventually superintendent. What went on in you? Because there's no way you started out all about kids. You start out as science,
No.
science, science. Then what happens? I know you tell a lot of these stories
Yeah.
where you ran into a kid that you made a difference, or what
Right.
happened to you? What
Yeah.
happened to you?
You know, I think there was definitely some opportunity to build some relationships as a coach, but I can't in good conscience say that that was when that took place. You know, Tom, certainly I've heard you tell the stories as a girls basketball coach about, you know, it was all about the wins. And I think I was that way as well. But honestly, my first year as an assistant principal, so we left Arizona, went back to Wyoming, ended up in Southwest Wyoming in Rock Springs. And I was hired to be the assistant principal, overseeing discipline and attendance. You know, that's like the epitome of a thankless job right there. But exactly, yeah. Who's the hammer? Me? You know, am I the hammer or the nail? And it just depends on day to day. And partway through that first year, you know, we were totally this culture of let's catch them doing it wrong. You know, the phrase that actually was used before I got there, and I adopted it real quick. I can't blame anybody for it.
Take a quick time out. We had a little glitch there, Darrin.
Did we freeze up?
We did just for a second.
Yeah.
You were saying something great, and my curiosity's through the roof. So you were a culture where the phrase was what, and you fell right into it? Or that's where we lost you.
Yeah. I'll come back. I'll go back to that. Yeah. For some reason, I had a little internet glitch on my end. So, yeah. So, let's see. So when I accepted this position at Rock Springs High, and I'm in charge of discipline and attendance, we were very much this culture of catch them doing it wrong. I mean, to the point where there was a phrase that we as a leadership team used, and it wasn't my phrase, but I can't say that you know, that I didn't use it, because it was just ingrained in our culture, and it was, I'm going to ding that kid, or I'm going to ding that teacher. I mean, that was the phrase. Woo! And I mean, it was toxic. Looking back on it, it was so toxic. And all we wanted to do was catch them doing it wrong. And I was good at it. I knew where to hide if I wanted to catch them smoking in a bathroom, or, you know, where to catch them when they're skipping class. I mean, I was good at it. It was cookie cutter discipline, you know, 6 or 7 kids at a time. Wham, here's your consequence. Get out, bring in the next one. Yeah. It was terrible. And I remember having a conversation with the principal at the time, and I just told him, I'm like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, man. I don't like this. This isn't who I am. And then shortly thereafter, we were having a staff meeting, and part of one of my responsibilities was the portion of the handbook that dealt with discipline and attendance. And so we're getting ready to do the handbook for the next year, and it's going to be all the same things, just the words will be changed. And in this staff meeting, we're having a conversation trying to solve the 2 greatest questions in education. You know, what are we going to do about hats? What are we going to do about cell phones? I mean, that's what this meeting was seriously about.
Gosh.
You know, what are we going to do about these 2 things? And I know I was starting to reach kind of a boiling point, but about halfway through the meeting, you know, somewhere between, well, if we get those calculator thingies and make them hang them on the wall too, well, if you just taser one kid, they'll get the message. Somewhere in between that spectrum. Yeah. A social worker named Spring raised her hand, and she said, Darrin, why is it always got to be about what they do wrong? And she followed that up almost immediately with, why can't it be about what they do right? And I mean, it was seriously like a bolt of lightning hit me. And, you know, I know around the room there was a mixture of reactions. There were some people who were, you know, like, oh boy, flowery social worker, here we go, you know. But then there were others that I noticed kind of looking the same as how I felt, which was, wow, what are we doing here? I mean, really? I mean, our whole philosophy was punishment to gain compliance. And that's a strategy that doesn't work. But that's what we were doing. And it was continuing to be the hammer, you know, hammer smashing on the nail. And we decided there was a small group of us. It wasn't the whole group, but there was a small group of us that said, we got to do something to change our culture because this is just not good. We had a terrible graduation rate. We had a terrible attendance rate. It was time. And so, I think back on that moment. Heck, I could still walk you right to the spot in Rock Springs High School where I was standing when that comment was made, because it was that impactful and that profound for me. And honestly, it changed me, not just as an educator, it changed me as a human being. I'm sure I was the one that, complained about everything. And, I go back to my coaching days. If I could go back as a coach and redo some of the things that I did, I was a jerk. I'm certain at a point I led our conference in technical fouls, and I wouldn't behave that way anymore.
Sure.
But it was very much a defining moment when she asked those two questions.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about school culture or business culture. You talk to anyone, when you're in it and whatever it is normative, a lot of people just fall in line. So if it's unhealthy and negative and this is what we do, there's a odd sense of comfort because that's what we do. There's my teammates, this is my crew, and we go on and this is what we've always done. And it's gutsy to have someone say what that person said in the midst of a culture like that. Because we all know negative culture that can turn quickly right on that person and make it a place where they don't want to be. But let's focus on what they're doing right. A novel idea, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Darrin, you end up going from principal, assistant principal, then you became the superintendent at West Grand, which is the district up in the mountains here in Colorado. But something was still burning in you besides leading this school or leading this district, but to get it out to America. Talk just a little bit about what was burning in you when I ran into you at breakfast 4 years ago. You were thinking, I got to get something more to America. Like I've had this thing in my head and I got to get it out to the world. So how'd that work?
Yeah. There was a point in time, and it goes back to Jocelyn's Renaissance. The very first time I went to Jocelyn's Renaissance conference in Orlando, Florida, got to sit in a room for this, new to Jocelyn's Renaissance, me and I don't know, 500 other people. And we listened to two just amazing educators, a guy named Frank Palatucci and another guy named Steve Wolf, who Steve is actually one of my very close friends now. And just hearing them talk about, how to do this differently, how to go from, catch them doing it wrong to catching them doing it right. Just really lit a fire in me. And, as we went through that first conference and we went and listened to all these different people speak and talk, I said to my right hand, another social worker in the building, a lady named Debbie. I just told Debbie, I said, you know what, next summer, we're going to present our results. And we did. We went and we spoke in Phoenix, and we figured we'd have like 8 people show up and we had a full room. And wow, that's exciting. So we just kept, presenting year after year after year. And maybe about 4 years in, there was a group that was presenting right after us in the room. And I take that back. They presented right before us. And so as we go up to start setting up, they turned to us and they said, we need to say thank you to you. And what are you guys talking about? And they're like, you know what? 3 years ago, we were in Phoenix for our very first Renaissance conference, and we listened to you guys, and you inspired us to go do this, to go make a difference. And that was like, holy cow, we really do have the ability to reach further than just inside of our own school walls. Continuing with those Renaissance connections.
Cool.
Steve Bowler put together his within our ranks program. I got to be a part of that very first group, which was all about educators who want to speak professionally, and being able to learn from Steve, not just the speaking side, but the business side of here's how you do this. That kind of launched me late 2018 into actually starting to do some keynote speaking. And I don't remember if it was the summer of 17 or summer of 18, Tom, when we had breakfast together, but I do remember very intently saying, I need to pick your brain. And I was grateful that you gave me that time that morning, because it has just continued to evolve and grown into the other passion that I developed aside, or along with, it's not aside from, along with school culture, which is the leadership piece. When I got to be the principal of my school, I was able to do even more to impact my kids by impacting my teachers. But there was a layer I hadn't thought about. I mean, I've always felt like as leaders, if we're going to impact the growth in our classrooms, our job is to grow our teachers. Well, I learned that now I had this additional responsibility and opportunity to grow the rest of my leaders. And that really ignited a passion in me. It redirected the dissertation that I wrote. I had just become real passionate about growing and supporting leaders. And so this new venture that I have gone off with Road to Awesome LLC is not only continuing the keynote speaking, but then now it's really providing a lot of support and mentorship through consulting for leadership teams all around the country. And at a point, I'm sure once our borders in Canada open back up, it'll move to an international level, because there's certainly some interest,
Yep.
From there as well. So yeah, that's kind of the direction that it has taken me.
I'm with you on an elevator, and we only got 8 floors. What's Road to Awesome mean? Like, what do you mean? What's the road? Like, give us the short, like, what's your pitch? Your book is about what?
Well, Road to Awesome in general, certainly the book has 6 components of leadership that I think are critical, that I'm going to go stand on the proverbial balcony and check in on myself. How am I doing? Just like as a basketball coach, you'd watch that video from the games, right? But you watch that video, it's shot from way up on high. So for me, with the leadership piece, I need to really monitor these 6 things that I feel are important. But I didn't write the book to tell people these 6 are the most important things. I wrote them as, now you tell me what's important to you as a leader. That's what Road to Awesome to me is really all about. When I'm consulting with leadership teams, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to dig deep into what is important to you. What do you value? How does it align with the values of your school and your district and your community? And then how do your behaviors and your actions align with that? If I ask, Kevin, if you're the principal of a school and you tell me here's what I value, and I go talk to 20, combination teachers, parents, and kids, and I get 20 completely different things than what you think, where's the alignment?
Sure.
So, truly what the Road to Awesome is we have decisions to make every single day. Some of them are small decisions, some of them are large decisions. And sometimes it's easy to just take that path that's well-traveled, that everybody else has done. But there are opportunities for us when maybe taking that road a little bit less traveled, although it might be a little bit more difficult,
Yep.
That's going to lead to our greatest self. And that's really what the Road to Awesome is all about.
Cool. What, when you mentioned those folks coming back and thanking you, from when they heard you 3 years prior.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When they sat in your room the first time, what do you think you said, or what story did you tell? I'm sure you told it, but what was the big heart that was a catalyst to them, do you think? Because I think that'd be helpful for me and for our listeners to hear. What do you think that was?
In reflection, that is a phenomenal question, Kevin. I don't think anybody's ever asked me one like that, but I will tell you that it ties directly to what I just said about sometimes taking the path less traveled is going to lead to the greatest reward. I know what I said to them, and I know what they told us. And that was, everybody else at the conference is saying, just pick 1 or 2 things, just start slow, just start slow. We didn't do that. Debbie and I jumped in with both feet. We just said, let's go. You know what? There's one speed on the Road to Awesome, and it's go. So with that group, they came back and said, you guys inspired us. You said go all in. Don't just stick your toe in the water, go all in. Yeah. And I know that's why. And Tom, you know the group. It's actually Franklin Simpson High School in Tennessee. It was Tim Slosher who came and talked to us. And That's the key. You know, if you're going to
Yeah.
do it, I don't care what it is, whether it's a Renaissance program or you're going to shift your career or you're going to go after an assistant principal job or whatever it is, you know what? Dedicate yourself to it and go all in. Don't just stick your toe in the water, because it's not going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's a culture shift that starts inside of each of us. There's no way you can do that at West Grand or in Franklin Simpson until the boss and the people that are key make the shift in here in the 6-inch space between their ears. That's what we're trying to do in America right now. COVID threw us a giant monster curveball because we lost a lot of kids. We lost a lot of teachers. I don't mean we can't find them, but we can't find them emotionally, spiritually,
Right.
some physically. What do kids need now, Darrin, coming out of COVID? Let's say you get 10 minutes to talk to America.
Yeah.
What do kids need? What do we got to do in education right now to reclaim the spirit of the teacher and the kid?
Well, I can tell you, it's not more Chromebooks. It's not, you know, more hand sanitizer or any of those things. What it really is, and right now the big buzzword is, you used it right off the top, is social emotional learning. I'll be honest with you. I think the number one thing that kids and teachers need is really to feel like they're part of something special again. You know, there's been this disenfranchisement that has taken place in many, many, many cases, not by anybody's choice. It's just what COVID has done to where we are. We've become very politicized. You know, there's this polar view on, you know, whether it's wearing masks or being in person or being virtual, whatever, you know, all of those things. You know, we're going to see schools all across America that are going to be open fully in person, full time, when school rolls back out in September. Most schools around the country actually were. A lot of our rural school districts have been open the entire school year. Mine is an example. But when everybody starts coming back, it's not about going back to normal. It's not about that. It's about creating this atmosphere, this welcoming atmosphere where kids feel safe, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel loved. And the same thing is true for all of our adults, not just our teachers. You know, we continue to talk about teachers. Hey, teachers are amazing. I love teachers. But I told you off the top my story about the athletic trainer. You know, in the high school where I was principal, yes, I had a lot of teachers who had amazing connections with kids, but I had a maintenance individual, a guy named Cleve, who he had as big an impact on a lot of kids as any teacher in that building. So we need to bring those people back in and not hammer them over the head with, okay, here's how we're going to adjust to this, and here's how we're going to deal with learning loss. Please stop using that phrase. I mean, let's be honest, learning loss, nobody lost learning. Maybe there were some opportunities lost, but now we have these new opportunities. So quit thinking about this learning loss crap like we have to catch up. Everybody fell behind equally. Let that go. What I really think kids and teachers need is to feel welcome, encouraged, supported, and feel like, hey, let's move forward from this point. Let's not worry about anything that's happened before. You know, let's reestablish our identity. Let's remember that we're professionals. We're very good at what we do. And let's just love our kids. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's time. It's definitely time to stop focusing on what's preventing us. The world knows what has prevented us in different forms. You're right. Rural kept things going. My kids happen to be in a heart of a city, but were able to still go. Some people moved forward. Some people had to stop. So the conversation needs to be less about this was in the way, this was in the way, this was it. Well, here we go. And whatever it looks like in your place, the roadblock has been removed to some degree. What are we going to do? And what's important there? Because kids become a product of their norm as well. So if kids are growing up in negativity, they're going to be negative. And you know, Tom and I beat our heads against walls with the negativity kids here, you know, and everyone knows this. We got to let them know the world is good. There is good out there. Yeah. And we gotta look at the good. That doesn't mean ignore the garbage. Goodness sakes, there's garbage, but why put the microscope on the garbage? Let's start moving forward, because kids, more than educators, need hope. They need to know I'm going to be okay. I'm going to keep moving forward. That doesn't mean I'm superhuman, but it means I gotta take this on my own. And when kids have hope in their eyes, watch out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I agree.
Mhm. But that has to come from the teachers in the classroom. And in order for that to happen, that has to come from the school leaders in the schools. And back to what Tom said right at, here just a little bit ago, take it all the way back up to the top, and superintendents and school boards, they have to reinstill that hope.
Okay.
That it isn't about take the excuses off the board. And then they're not really necessarily excuses, or they're reasons, but
For sure.
whatever. We've navigated through all of that.
Yeah.
Now, hey, the road's opening back up. Let's put the hammer down and let's get to it.
Yep.
And let's really build that hope again, that we can get where we want to be.
Yeah, we got to create a nation of kids that want to go to school. My daughter's homesick today,
Yeah.
minor little thing. And she sat there and looked at me. She's a junior in high school. Looked at me. She goes, "I'd so much rather be at school. I wish I was at school. I could see my teachers. I could see." And she has this love of this building and love of the learning. It's not a love of anatomy. It's a love of learning,
Right.
and camaraderie and people. And from there,
Mhm.
she's growing and growing and growing and growing. So yeah, let's kick over the roadblocks. Let's go.
And we keep talking about
Absolutely.
the road. Darrin, if I want to get on the road with you, let's have a leadership team listening to this. And I want to hear more about this, or get a hold of the book, or talk to you about speaking. It's Darrin. Give us.
Yeah, let us know how to find you.
How do they find you?
Yeah. So it's Darrin M. Peppard at everything. So Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Voxer, Clubhouse. I mean, you name it. LinkedIn. I'm Darrin M. Peppard on every single one of those platforms. The website's roadtoawesome.net and darrinmpeppard.com. So two different opportunities there, and in every opportunity there's ways of sending messages, email
Cool.
me, connect with me. Would love to have more conversations with other folks that are watching. And if there's something I can do to help them out, or even just throw a couple positive words their way, that's what I'm there for.
Yeah. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's Peppard, Peppard. Darrin M.
That is
Peppard.
correct. Yeah. Yep. And Darrin is 2 R's and an I.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
I keep forgetting we got some people listening to the radio, Kevin, not necessarily the television. Darrin, thanks for your time, man. Stay on the road. We'll be in touch. You and I will keep in touch. In fact, we got another Zoom tomorrow, so we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, we do. Right on.
Darrin, thank you so much for your time. Keep hope rolling on that road. Let's go, buddy. I love knowing you're out there.
Absolutely.
And that's
thank you so much
for me.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kevin. It was great to meet you. Tom, as always great to see you, my friend.
Yeah. See you later, man. Every time I hear Darrin speak, I just feel like I got a little smarter. He truly, and I know this guy pretty well now. He truly cares about a kid who walks into school and the kid's having a problem and the kid is a mess, and the parent. He's one of those people that really truly communicates you matter to those kids, and it's just refreshing to hear that. My other takeaway is this piece that he just talked about, learning loss. And we did suffer some setbacks during the school year. Let's face it, this hasn't been a stellar year for everybody, but let's remember time management that the kids learned. Let's remember grit. Let's remember resilience. Let's remember all the stuff they learned that they couldn't have learned in 2017. Kids this year were forced to step up. Some didn't step up as much as others, but every kid developed character qualities out of this COVID experience that are irreplaceable. They're phenomenal. And maybe we didn't get photons or semicolons in May because we were behind a little bit, but the other stuff I think more than makes up for it. So I love what he said about learning loss.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I loved quite a bit of what he said. I really resonated with what he said about his lens when he started talking about leadership. And he started talking about how it was kind of baby steps into it. It was first department chair, and then it was being a teacher to host student teachers, and how he just kept coming back to this idea of I had to start shifting how I was seeing the world and from what vantage point I was seeing it. And then he just, I think that's a powerful attribute of a leader is your vision and how you're looking at things. And then finally, just the way he spoke about that trainer and just the raw, not planned connection he felt as an athlete going to see the trainer. It's just a great reminder of the power we all have. Some of us feel powerless, but wow, we can ring the bell if we realize the power that's in our hands. So yeah, that was great, Tom. Thanks so much for introducing Darrin to us.
Yeah. And then my final plea, now it's getting to be June here in about 10 minutes. Teachers listening out there, plan your summer, plan to refresh, recharge. Don't get too excited about going back to your classroom. Get out of there, get to the lake, get to your backyard, find a swimming pool, travel. You gotta really start focusing now on taking care of yourself. That's my thought for the day. Forget the kids. Focus on your family, focus on yourself, and focus on coming back next fall ready to go, because you deserve a break.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tom.